Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for our very first episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help others get published with a proven system that works. During our podcast, what I do is I ask 5 questions. The first question, we're going to talk about the writing process. Our second question, we're going to talk about the publishing process. In our third question, we're going to talk about a marketing strategy. For question 4, we always want to ask the authors and our guests what are their favorite book and what's the number one thing that they learned from it. And then question 5 is, what is your favorite quote and why? And then after that, I just ask, what is the best way for people to find you online? So I am actually going to interview myself for our first episode here and kind of go through the process with you. So our first question is, what is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book? Well, my answer for that is to just do it. And you're going to hear a common theme with that because many authors and our guests are going to tell you the same thing. Just do it. Just take the first step. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first steps. Lao Tzu, one of my favorite quotes. You just have to get started, and you have to get through fear. And I think that's the biggest thing. We all have a fear of failure. We all have a fear of putting ourselves out there. So the one biggest piece of advice I can tell you is to just do it. Because it took me 4 years to get my first book out. My first book was in my head in 2011, but it took an epiphany on a flight to Las Vegas in June 2015 to finally get me off my butt and to get published. The next morning, I'm at the Mirage Hotel and Casino. I outlined the entire book with my iPhone. A week later, I wrote over 20,000 words. A month after that, launched the book, got published, became a best-selling author. And then it was rinse, wash, and repeat. For my second book, for my third book, and then for my fourth book, people were asking how I could help them. And so my fourth book was called Book Publishing for Beginners. And that's when I started to take on clients to be able to help them in their own author journey. And a year and a half after that, I started my group coaching program, the Book Publishing Implementation Program, where everything's laid out for you. All you have to do is trust the process and follow our proven system that works. After that, developed the full publishing company, where we have our done-for-you services, where someone just wants to get published and bring me their manuscript. We take care of everything else for you. From that point, we get it edited by a professional editor. We get your book cover designed. We get it formatted. We get it everything ready to go. And if you want us to market it for you, then we have a done-for-you book launch marketing service. So in my own journey, that's how it developed. To just do it. Do not be afraid to take the plunge and put yourself out there, because you're going to find you're going to be a little bit scared of rejection, but I'm going to tell you right now, 90% of the people are going to love your book. They are. Is there going to be negativity? Always. There's always negativity, but it's just a small amount. Focus on the positive. So question 2, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published? I think there's many challenges, but I think the main thing is just knowing what to do. Because if you're just flying out there by yourself and you're just relying on a couple books and a little bit of help here and there, then it's going to be more of a challenge. You really need to have a proven system that works. And I think that's one of the most important things. And whether that's having a coach or using the publishing service, it's just getting out there and figuring out what's going to work. Because I know with me, through trial and error, it was hundreds of hours learning that process. So I think that's the main thing, is just learning how is everything entailed with that. So what I mean by that is, okay, so how do I go and find an editor? Or how do I find a formatter? And what do I need to do to be able to launch my book? Do I need to have it as a free promotion for a while? Do I need to have it 99 cents? So it's those different things that you need to figure out. And yes, can you do a lot of research through Google and through books? You can do a part of it, but the other part is trial and error and just learning what works and then developing systems to go with that. So question 3, please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that worked well. So for what I found to be a really good marketing strategy is using different book promo companies and then building your launch to a crescendo where you want to have the highest point of action on the last day of your launch. And then from that point, your book peaks, gets the highest ranking. And then from that point, you put your book at regular price and then you launch it out from there. And that's when you start making your investment back with your book. So for me, that's a strategy. I will suggest a couple of book promo companies, and that is Butt Books, which I'm a big fan of. And eReader News Today is another one as well. So when we do our own launches, we use over 20 different promo companies. So those are two of the best. I highly recommend that you check them out for your marketing strategy. Question 4, what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it? So this is always a tough one. I have 2 all-time favorite books, but I'm going to share with you my favorite one today just because it really had a profound effect on me. And that was The Last Lecture by Randy Pausch. He was a gentleman that died of pancreatic cancer a number of years ago, and he did his last lecture at the university where he taught at. And it was basically a lecture about life, about philosophy, about really maximizing your time and not worrying about the petty things that are out there. And it was amazing. It grew viral. It has hundreds of millions of views on YouTube. You can actually watch the speech on YouTube. Just type in The Last Lecture. He also created a book with it. And it really is a great book to read, especially if you're struggling through the minutiae of life, so to speak. It's going to really help you realize what's important. And in my view, the most important things to me are my friends and my family and service to others. There's a phrase that I live by, and that is veritas et utilitas. It is my own motto. It is my company motto. It translates to truth and service, where we take care of people. And whether that's as my friend or as my client, my job is to make sure that we take great care of you and we help you get to the next level. That's our main thing. And we do that by being truthful and transparent about the process, our structure, our strategies, our systems. Everything is very clearly laid out and we're very transparent about the process. But the other thing is we want complete satisfaction. We want to take care of our clients. And that is our number one thing, is seeing them succeed. And that's the same philosophy I had when I was a teacher for 9 years, where I taught special needs for 3 years. I ran an after-school program for 3 years. And then for my first 3 years, I taught English as a second language. And seeing my kids succeed is one of the greatest feelings that you can have, is to really see them being successful. And we have the same philosophy with our clients. So what is your favorite quote and why? That is our 5th and final question. And these are the questions that I ask our guests on the podcast. My favorite quote is from W. Clement Stone. He was part of the book, PMA, Positive Mental Attitude, with Napoleon Hill. He was also my parents' boss. He ran a company called Combined Insurance. Both of my parents were executives through his company. So I learned about Mr. Stone when I was very young. And one of his quotes is, what the mind of man can conceive and believe, it will achieve. And I paraphrase that a little bit, where I say, what the mind of men and women can conceive and believe, they will achieve. Because I really do feel that we can do anything that we set our minds to. And I've seen it work. I've seen it work my entire life. I've seen it work for friends. So those are the 5 questions. Once we have gone through the 5 questions, then at that point, we'll thank our guests for being on the show and then ask them, what is the best way for people to find you online? At that point, they will share their website and any potential free gifts that they might have for you. So for me, the best way for you to find me online is to go to getpublishedpodcast.com, and you can also get a free copy of our brand new book, Get Published. In addition to that, you can find out more about our services that we offer. The whole point of our podcast is that we want it to be short, sweet, and to the point. Our episodes will typically last between 10 to 15 minutes, where we cover the writing process, marketing process, publishing process, and also find out a little bit more about the authors. So it's great for a quick podcast, a quick listen, and we hope to have you guys on board for many more episodes. Next week, we will have best-selling author of Unshakable Self-Confidence, Billy Atwell, on the show. Billy is a client of mine. He has had an amazing book launch. His book is still #1 after launching in January. So we're looking forward to having Billy on the show and sharing his experience about getting published. Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.